Camp Searchlight. When Caesar's Legion sabotaged this NCR base, they didn't use guns or bombs. Instead, they unleashed an invisible killer, because inside the fire station sat dozens of pre-war containers packed with spent nuclear fuel rods from San Onofre. Once these rods were unsealed by the Legion, a surge of radiation poured out like a toxic storm. Within minutes, lethal doses swept across the base and destroyed everything. Even Legion agents who opened the casks died instantly, their armor fusing to their skin as they collapsed beside the glowing canisters. The air rippled from the heat of radiation, and survivors outside the camp could only watch as those inside suffered lethal radiation burns and sickness within minutes. Decades later, the radiation still clings to everything. The fire station remains the epicenter, making this the deadliest spot in Mojave. Stand there for just a few seconds, and the Geiger counter spikes over 20 rads per second near the fire station's center, climbing to nearly 30 rads in the inner rooms, enough to kill an unprotected traveler in under a minute. The NCR soldiers who didn't escape became ghoulified troopers, bodies preserved by the very radiation that killed them. They still patrol the ruins, following their old routes through clouds of radioactive dust drawn back to the camp they died defending. Mass Fusion Building Reactor. Everyone in the Commonwealth recognizes the mass fusion building, but few know about the death trap waiting underground. The reactor room sits below ground level, and both the Brotherhood of Steel and the Institute want what's inside badly enough to fight over it. After you deal with the security turrets and sentry bots, the central chamber reveals itself with a blue glow filling the entire space. That's the Cherenkov radiation effect, and it looks beautiful right until it kills you. Two different radiation sources stack on top of each other here, with one hitting you for 30 rads and another dealing 153 rads. If you swim in the water, it jumps to 50 rads per second, but drinking the water is instant unaliving since it inflicts 100,000 rad damage unless you have lead belly maxed out. When you leave the reactor room, you pass through decontamination and lose all your rads, but surviving long enough to reach that point makes this one of the deadliest places in the Commonwealth. The Glow. At night, you can see this place from miles away across the desert because of the radioactive light making it glow like a death beacon. But before the war, the West Tech Research Facility sat here where scientists created the forced evolutionary virus underground. Unfortunately, multiple nuclear warheads hit it directly and tore the whole place open while shattering the FEV tanks on the lower levels. Because of this, just merely standing on the surface means you're going to be taking 15 rads per second, and while that drops to 10 per second on the first 3 levels and 1 per second deeper down, the entrance itself is a massive hole punched straight into the earth. Climbing down plays this otherworldly droning soundtrack that makes everything feel suffocating and wrong. If you explore the place further, you'll see the dead body of Sergeant Allen. His squad made it to the 3rd level before automated turrets cut through their power armor and killed most of them, and the survivors dragged themselves back up only to watch one of the soldiers, Private Camarillo, wander off delirious from radiation exposure. The mumbling private doomed everyone when he went crazy and ingested all the squad's anti-radiation meds. Everyone died slowly and painfully. Now, the radiation from the glow isn't completely useless though, because the Brotherhood of Steel found it to be the best test for any outsider that wants to join their group. If the person survives, that means they're tough enough and want the membership bad enough. The alternative is simply death by radiation poisoning. Emmett Mountain Disposal Site. Before the Great War, the Toxic Valley was known for its lush forests and winding rivers, but decades of industrial abuse turned it into a gray wasteland. Constant chemical spills, airborne ash, and runoff poisoned the soil long before the bombs ever fell. When the war finally came, that pollution became mixed with the fallout. This created the radioactive fog that gives the valley its name today. Every inch of it is laced with toxins, and the Emmett Mountain Disposal Site sits at the center of it all. The facility was built to store more than 1,000 barrels of nuclear waste in 8 reinforced chambers, but within a week of opening, the support beams failed, collapsing part of the site and burying 2 inspectors under tons of debris and leaking radioactive drums. After the collapse, radiation began leaking through the tunnels, exposing workers to dangerous levels of contamination. As illnesses spread, employees grew suspicious that the company was secretly studying the effects of radiation on them. When supervisors complained about the shoddy materials that caused the disaster, they were quickly replaced with managers who ignored the problem. By 2103, scavengers cleared out the death claws living there and started mining the irradiated ore, turning a disposal site into a source of nuclear material. Crater of Adam. The glowing sea spreads across the southwestern corner of the Commonwealth as the most irradiated region in the entire wasteland. Legend says it was ground zero for the nuclear blast that destroyed most of Massachusetts, an explosion so massive that people saw it from as far away as Sanctuary Hills, which is roughly 65 kilometers away. This created a vast landscape where lethal radiation glows sickly green across everything, especially at night when you can see it from anywhere in the Commonwealth. But right at the center of this radioactive hellscape is the Crater of Adam, a place built directly on ground zero where the nuclear explosion left a massive impact crater. The children of Adam treat this spot as their holiest site and built metal shanties around an irradiated irradiated pool at the crater's center. A yellow-green radioactive glow rises above the crater constantly and can be seen from miles away. The cultists seem completely immune to the deadly radiation, claiming Adam's blessing protects them from harm. Their leader, Isolde, insists they built their metal shanties themselves from salvaged riveted scrap, believing the very materials help channel Adam's divine power. Drywell's Crater. The Divide was once home to the towns of Hopeville and Ashton, built around dormant missile silos that somehow survived the Great War. One day, the courier's delivery accidentally triggered those silos, launching their missiles and tearing the land apart. The explosions created the wasteland now called the Divide, and within it lies Drywells, a pit of scorched tents and melted metal where radiation, instantly lethal to anyone who steps too close. By 2281, Centurion Gaius Magnus and his legionaries occupied the ruins, but the radiation soon consumed them. The fallout burned their flesh, twisted their bodies, and turned them into irradiated versions of the soldiers they once were. That's because the area's radiation levels are extreme, averaging around 35 rads per second throughout the camp, but spiking past 300 rads per second near the crater's center. Centuries later, the crater still emits intense radiation. It's a constant reminder that in the Divide, nothing stays buried for good. Monongahela River. This river runs north from West Virginia into Pennsylvania, passing under the Pitt Bridge before joining the Allegheny River to form the Ohio. The waterways around Pittsburgh became dangerously radioactive after the Great War. Radiation leaked from the city's ruined factories and mixed with fallout in the rivers, though a few shallow areas stayed just safe enough to cross until 2104. But by 2277, the river near the Pitt had become something far worse. The shoreline hits you with 290 rads per second, making it more radioactive than any water in the capital wasteland, and standing in the water itself exposes you to about 600 rads per second. If you're crazy enough to drink it, it'll give you another 450 rads. As you move east and west of the Pitt Bridge, radiation spikes sharply, reaching up to 2,665 rads per second in the worst areas. The further you go from the bridge, the murkier and deadlier the water becomes. One local, Mona, fell into the river and suffered a horrifying fate. Her skin peeled away, and she developed lesions from the radiation burns. The devastation and industrial waste that built the pit now flow through its veins, making it one of the most radioactive waterways in the entire Fallout universe. Vault 87. Unironically enough, the most radioactive place in the entire Fallout universe goes right back to a vault. This one sits northwest of Little Lamplight as the birthplace of the Capital Wasteland's super mutants and their main stronghold. Construction finished in 2071, but around 2076, the vault's original experiment got scrapped and the whole place became a research center for studying the forced evolutionary virus on human subjects. The overseer and security guards followed their orders from Vault Tech, but their security measures weren't enough when mutated test subjects broke free about a year after the vault sealed. The escaped mutants overwhelmed the guards and either drove other vault dwellers out or dragged them off to be mutated with FEV, creating a new generation of super mutants that spread across DC and kidnapped people for nearly 200 years. But the real horror of Vault 87 isn't what's inside but what's waiting at the entrance. The radiation at the above-ground entrance is the highest in the entire game, peaking at nearly 4,000 rads per second in the center and about 3,600 right at the vault door. It's so deadly that even full Rad-X and a radiation suit won't save you. Stepping inside kills you in less than a third of a second. This is likely intentional as a gameplay mechanic, forcing players to find the alternative path through Little Lamplight instead of the main vault door. The main entrance was damaged beyond repair, probably by a direct nuclear strike that left behind this lethal hotspot. And that's Fallout's most radioactive places ranked. How would you rank them on your own? Drop it in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more Fallout chaos.